Hey, what's going on with you? Rose? What rose is that? What rose is that? Is that the rose I'm thinking of? Is that the rose I'm thinking of? Yeah, just coming on here to talk about the full moon. As you can see, the moon is, this is where everything's currently at. The moon is not even in the Aries yet. Oh, all right. All right. All right. Don't speak that good of English, huh? Don't speak that good of English. Yeah, it's going down out there at the dog. So let's talk about this full moon that's coming up. All right. So when you're looking at the, everybody wants to look at the moon with as just a one-off um, episode, and you can't look at it that way. Um, all right. So let's go back and track it. All right. So where did this where did this cycle actually begin? All right. So it goes from, full moons are not just a one-off event, right? So it's part of a cycle, right? Now, when did this cycle begin? Well, let's find it. Let's see. So it's going to begin in Aries season because we're at a Aries full moon, right? So when was the Aries? The beginning of it is going to be the Aries full moon, new moon. When was the Aries new moon? So when was the Aries new moon? Let me get to it. All right. So the full moon, new moon was March. Let me go back to it. There you go. So here we go. New moon in Aries, 9 degrees Aries. Right? Now, what was going on at the time? Hold on. Let me get rid of that. All right. So let's look at what's going on at the time. We have damn. Damn, I can't even I can't find my all right. Anywho. Damn, I don't like this mouse here. Damn, where's all right, here we go. So on March 29th, we had a new moon in Aries, right? And you just can't look at the new moon, where the moon is currently. You have to look at the other players, right? Aries is ruled by Mars. And what's going on with Mars? Mars, at the time of this new moon, is sitting over here in Cancer. What is the condition of Mars in Cancer? It's in its fall. Mars is exalted in Capricorn. Mars is in fall, in the opposite of its exaltation, which puts it in Cancer in fall. Right? Now, this new moon seed planting had to do with this Mars here, has something to do with it. And Mars and Cancer, Mars and Cancer, what is that? That's a hot planet, right? Fiery planet, the planet of war, and the planet of, action. And Cancer, which is family oriented. Cancer is ruled by the moon, and the moon is emotions and stuff like that, feelings. Just think of a Navy combat warrior at a family reunion. That is Mars. That is Mars in that is Mars in Cancer. All right. Now, even though this is, I said, what's going on, Devin? Even though I said this is new moon and full moon, because it is Aries full moon, it's ruled by Mars. You know, look over here in Pisces. There was a lot of energy over here in Pisces. Venus and Neptune were pretty much conjunct at the critical 29th degree, 29th degree. Venus was about to move there. And it was smashed in between Neptune and the North Node of Destiny, right? And Saturn was sitting up there. And what they would call this in astrology, this is called a stellium. A stellium. A stellium is usually a conjunction of three or more planets in a house or a sign. It's considered a conjunction. Now, Venus is exalted in Pisces. All right. And so at this new moon, hey moon, how you doing? What's going on? So at this new moon, we had Venus, the planet of love, what we desire, what we attract to us, was sitting exalted. What does exalted mean? It means, think of a princess in her palace, going to her palace, and everything is laid out for her, right? But here's the question. You see this? Neptune? Neptune is the planet of illusions, fogginess, all right? And then you also have the North Node of Destiny. And what was this presenting? Hey, everything, you're sitting up here like a princess in a castle. Is this really a dream, or is this illusion? Is this reality? Is this what your soul is called for? Is this what your path is headed for? Right? North Node, where you're heading toward. Y'all with me? Y'all with me? So we got Venus, which is in Pisces, her place of exaltation, where she's most exalted, most romantic, most transcendent. All right? Venus exalted means she's operating at her highest expression. Words like unconditional love, artistic inspiration, spiritual connections. This was going on. And the North Node represents destiny, the path forward, what we are meant to grow toward or into. And when Venus touches it, it's like a cosmic promise we can come alive. And so at this time, March, remember March 29th, around March 29th, this is being a seed being planted, asking, is this what you've been waiting for? Is this what you've been sitting back waiting for all of this time? And around March, the end of March, beginning of April, right? You may have met some people, may have met somebody and thought this is too good to be true. Venus also represents creativity and stuff like that. So it could have been a creative project, or financial opportunity. Venus rules Taurus. That felt like heaven sent. And maybe you felt like you understood what you truly wanted. The energy was dreamy, hopeful, and enchanted. Right? Damn. I'm finally getting, my dreams are finally starting to align. That's what this energy is right here. It is Venus in its North Node. But then this Venus and this Neptune is like fog. And this is 29th degree. The 29th degree is called the critical or the analytic degree because things, and what this is this analytic degree is pointing to a point of crisis or completion. And so Neptune, this here, is the planet of dreams, illusions, and disillusion. All right? And so Venus with Neptune at this degree is asking, is this real? Or is this what is really real? Or what I wish is real? And they had a line there, and that line was really, really thin. Hey, this seems like a dream. Could it be real? But that dream was also blurred. So this could have been that person you met. You saw their potential, but not who they really were. That opportunity, that job opportunity, that situation that was offered to you, you imagined the best scenario, but you also was ignoring the red flags. That desire, you was desiring something, someone, someplace, but was you projecting that a fantasy onto that person, place, or thing? So this is, the atmosphere was romantic, artistic, spiritually connected, but it also, during this time, was unclear. Foggy, fog everywhere. So thick that you may not have been able to see your hand in front of your face. Right? Then this was the seeding moment of all of this. By the way, traditionally, Jupiter rules Pisces. Modern Neptune rules Pisces. So not only do you have the modern ruler of Pisces at a critical degree, you have Jupiter here in Gemini, and Jupiter in Gemini is in detriment. Jupiter doesn't like detriment. So you got the ruler of this stellium, this cluster of Pisces planets, in detriment, in the sign of communication. Why is Jupiter in detriment in the sign of communication? Because Jupiter just wants to talk big. I would just want to talk about the ideas. I don't want to talk about the details of the ideas and stuff like that, right? So the ruler at the time of this new moon was in detriment. By the way, the ruler of this new moon was also in fall. We got a planet in detriment in the sign of communication, and we got a planet of war in the sign of family and emotions in fall. Fall, think of fall like being exiled. Like I take you and drop you off somewhere, put you in a plane, drop you off somewhere where you don't know the language, you don't know anybody. And I just drop you off. I fly you there blindfolded, drop you off and say good luck. That's Mars in Cancer. All right. So then we got to watch Venus here. All right. So Venus moved on. All right. Let's go days. Let's go weeks. So Venus moved on, right? Moved April. We had some changes. All right. Now Venus is here, conjunct Saturn. Saturn is the lord of karma. Venus was conjunct Saturn, April 26th. All right. The lord of karma. By the way, watch. Oh, I forgot the pad. Watch this. Hold up. Watch this. See Venus right here? What is Venus? Conjunct the North Node of Destiny with Saturn here in April. Moon came around. All right. We went into Taurus season. Venus at the critical degree. Then Venus hit Neptune again. Look. Neptune had changed signs. Venus hit Neptune in Aries and moved along. All right. But then Venus went retrograde. Wait, hold up. How come it ain't going retrograde? Let me go back. So Venus went into Aries. See, here we go. Venus here, April 29th, moves into Aries. Venus in Aries is in detriment. It's opposite. Venus rules Libra. When a planet is opposite its rulership, that means it's in detriment. Venus went into detriment in Aries. All right, hit Neptune again. You remember it hit it in Pisces. Then Venus turned retrograde and comes back. Wait, hold up. Wait, when you coming back, Venus? I know when it was. Hold up. Here we go. See, Venus goes into Aries. Yeah, it gets up to 10 degrees. And then it goes retrograde and comes back. By the way, yeah, right here, 10 degrees, then it goes retrograde and starts making its way back to Pisces. Has a conjunction, has a cazimi with the sun in Aries, March 22nd, right? Venus in detriment, cazimi. Cazimi is in the heart of the sun, so some karma here was burnt off. Then Venus went back into Pisces, had a conjunction at the critical 29th degree with Neptune, the moon. All right, see Venus here in Pisces. Retrograde, review, rewind, reminisce. All right, then Venus kept going, hit the North Node again for the second time, but this time it was in retrograde, review, rewind. All right, kept on back, hit Saturn, the planet of karma, retrograde. Then Venus came out of retrograde and started coming back forward again. What's that mean? I gotta go. It has to go through another run of all those planets. By the way, during this time, I didn't say anything, but Mercury was also retrograde and went back into Pisces and came back. That's significant too because Mercury was the ruler of the Virgo eclipses and stuff like that. So Venus comes up out. It runs into the North Node of Destiny and Saturn all at the same time, but this time it's not retrograde, it's back direct. Comes over, goes back into Aries. All right, hits Neptune again, the planet of fogginess, and then we move around, right? Now, I told y'all at the new moon that I showed y'all how Mars was in fall in Cancer, right? And Jupiter here was in detriment. Now let's fast forward to this full moon, all right? And see where everything is at. Let's see the switches. So tomorrow, October 6th, let's see. So the full moon is going to be at 14 degrees, 8 minutes. 14 degrees, 8 minutes. On Monday, about the exact is going to be Central Time, 10:48. 10:48. Central Time. Right? Now, let's look at where everything's at. If I go back like, let me see, an hour or two. Let's see. Jupiter, look, right now. If I go to right now, which was, let's see. Early this morning, Jupiter was at 22 degrees. Early this morning. Now, does anybody remember what degree that I said Mars was at during the new moon in Cancer? Aries. Yes, 22 degrees. 22 degrees. So And the condition of Jupiter in Cancer is exalted. This is Jupiter's favorite place to be. So we have a planet, the planet that was in charge of the stellium, that was in detriment in Gemini, has now moved over into its exaltation. Has now moved over to its exaltation. Mars, who was in Cancer and fall, is over here powered up in its own domicile, which is Scorpio. The dynamics have shifted. All right. We still have the outer planets, Uranus, Pluto, Neptune, all aspecting each other. All right. And Venus, as of yesterday, just crossed over the South Node. All right, see it here? Now, today, Venus is at 20 degrees. And like I said, tomorrow, for the full moon, Venus is still in her fall. But see, she was in her own bound face, and so which is giving her a saving grace. And Jupiter here is sextile, sending support. So Jupiter, who is in detriment in Gemini when Venus was foggy, rolling through Pisces, is now in an exalted position, giving support. Hey, when you was over here in March, I couldn't support you. I was in detriment. But now, here, right, with these eclipses going on and all that, now I can give you support. I can lend you support. Water to earth. Water to earth. But there's things that Venus needed to walk away from. Plus, if you look at this, days after the full moon, Venus goes home to Libra. Venus goes home to Libra. Right? And so this whole thing is telling a story, right? So, I told you about when Venus, when it all rolled in, the fog and things was coming in, it could have been dreamy, felt dreamy. This is what I've always waited for, right? And then the retrograde happened, and it was a turning back. Venus turned retrograde, right, and went back over those outer planets. Retrograde means retrograde. What is retrograde? Retrograde means the planets appear. They're not really moving backwards, but they appear like they're moving backwards in the side. So symbolically, it means we're going back to review, reconsider, revise. So when Venus went retrograde during that time, we was asking ourselves, is this really what I want? Is this really real? Am I seeing things clearly? Right? She was still conjunct Neptune. The fog was still there. Mars, the ruler of Aries and the new moon, was in Cancer at 22 degrees in its fall, struggling, uncomfortable. The warrior that couldn't fight, couldn't initiate, couldn't start anything. Everything felt emotionally heavy and stuck. And then you had that stellium, that cluster of planets in Pisces, Venus, Mercury, Neptune, Saturn, and the North Node. Pisces energy was dominant all over the place. We got Pisces hanging all over the place. And I don't know about y'all. I don't know how y'all feel about Pisces energy, but you know what I'm saying? Pisces energy, you got to put that stuff in a bottle or a jar, and open at special occasions. I'm only playing, kid. Pisces, but Pisces energy is dreamy. It could be confused, you know, escapist energy, but it's also a spiritual energy, depending on how you handle and approach um, um, Pisces, right? Then we had during the retrograde, we had Venus conjunct the North Node again, right? And the second meeting was bringing up questions like, is this actually my destiny or just a fantasy? Why doesn't this feel as magical as it did? Why? Hey, your brother's a double Pisces. Anyway, uh, uh, why doesn't this feel as magical as it did in February, March time? Right? Why am I not seeing things clearly? And so the dreaminess of what you was introduced to in at the new moon, now you're starting to see the flaws. It's starting to crack, right? And then Venus uh, stopped going retrograde and it came back direct and it hit Saturn again. Saturn is the planet of reality, structure, time, commitment, limitations, right? And he's the teacher who shows you what's actually possible versus what you dreamed was possible. Mm, 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 mm. At this conjunction, it kind of was like the moment of truth. Is this real or was it fugazi? What are the actual terms? What are the real limitations here? What, I don't want to trigger anybody out there, what commitment is actually being offered versus what I imagine? Do I really want to commit to this thing? Saturn in Pisces, which is Venus's exaltation, was saying even in the dream, there are rules. Even in paradise, there are boundaries. Even in destiny, it has conditions. And around April and all of this stuff, around this time, we started seeing some relationships coming to an end with people, places, situations. Some opportunities reveal their real smaller scope. I thought this dream was big, but in all actuality, this dream could fit inside of a thimble. Some of these dreams got doused with cold water at this time. But let's be real. This was necessary. Saturn wasn't being cruel. He was just being honest. And you know how what people's relationship with truth is and honesty. It's an acquired taste like beer. All right. So the Venus conjunct Saturn and the North Node, remember, do I need to go back? The North Node was there too. And Saturn points to karma, and this is karma crystallization. the dream, whatever you dream, it must meet reality. This is where Neptune fog meets Saturn structure. We started to see what could actually be built versus what was mere vapor. You know that song by Biz Markie? You got the vapors. Chugga, 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 chugga. You got the vapors. Right? So, and then we moved on at that time, during that new moon and stuff like that. Like I said, Venus was in her exaltation. The princess was in her castle being pampered. And now she has moved to Virgo. She has moved to Virgo, her fall. What is this? The princess is asked to wash the dishes. And she's like, what? The princess is asked to serve. And she's like, what? This is my castle. I'm the princess. How you going to ask me to serve in my own castle? Can you imagine that? Being in your own castle and being asked to serve? That's like Alfred asking Bruce Wayne, Batman, to serve him. And Bruce Wayne or Batman gonna be looking at Alfred like, you the butler? I'm Batman. I'm Batman, not you. So Venus moved through Aries, which is her detriment. Moved through Taurus. Moved through Taurus, which is her rulership. Moved through Gemini. Came through Cancer. Went through Leo. And now ends in Virgo, right? And when a planet, and like I said, Venus is in fall in Virgo. And what does that actually mean? A planet in fall means that it's less at ease. It may struggle a little more. It's not at ease in that energy. It's not really a weakness, but let's just say Venus was humbled. Just think about it. If that's your castle, and you asked to wash the dishes, that's gonna humble you a little bit, right? So Virgo, now what is Virgo about? Virgo is about analysis over romance. Venus exalted in Pisces is gonna really enjoy Pisces energy. So Virgo is about I analyze. We're not doing romance. We're gonna analyze this romance. Virgo is about practicality over fantasy. All right, thank you for dropping in. I really appreciate it. What actually works over what we wish would work? What actually works over what we wish would work? Purification over discernment. And discernment. Separating the wheat from the shaft. If you look at Virgo's glyph, it's a woman holding the wheat. So, doing the separating the wheat from the little shaft of the. So Venus, now if you put Venus in Virgo asks, does this actually serve me? Virgo is I serve. Is this actually valuable? Taurus, Venus, value what I value. Or, ooh, this might be a triggering question for some of y'all. Have I been settling? Have you been settling? Are you in a comfort zone and just been settling? Because that is what you are used to. All right? The person you idealize shows their human flaws, and you decide if you could love the reality. Is this something I could actually really put up with? Yeah, all right. This is during the Saturn, the Venus Saturn North Node conjunction, right? The job or the money situation shows its particular limitations. Your values may have shifted during this time from what sounds good to what actually improves my life. The exaltation gave you the dream, but now Venus in fall makes you look at what's real. Now, I pointed out something. I said Jupiter and Mars. I pointed out what Jupiter and Mars were. Jupiter at the new moon was in detriment and Mars is in fall. And then now they switch positions and Mars and Jupiter is actually in the exalted position. Where exact degree where Mars was when the new moon and this seeding taking place. All right. So Jupiter and Mars pretty much swap positions at 22 degrees. And during Venus's journey through Pisces, which is Jupiter rules Pisces, and it was in Gemini and detriment. It was struggling and scattered. But now Jupiter is in Cancer, the sign of his exaltation, where it's most benefic, most generous, and most wise. Jupiter in his exaltation, and Jupiter is in his own bounds. What is bounds? Bounds is each sign is broken down into, so as we see here, Jupiter, well, you really can't see it, but each planet has rulership over particular degrees. And Jupiter here in Cancer is in its own bounds. So not only is Jupiter exalted in Cancer right here, but it's also, let's just say, in its own backyard. Let's just say Jupiter rents property in Cancer. And right here in these degrees is his yard. And so he's even more powered up when he's here. All right? So Jupiter is not only exalted, it's in its own bounds, having maximum protection and maximum power, maximum wisdom, and maximum faith. You might be saying, where did he get faith from? Well, Jupiter also rules Sagittarius. So not only is Jupiter going to have some Piscean energy, display some Piscean energy, it's also going to display some Sagittarian energy with inside of Cancer and all of that. That's how you get these layers. Now, I personally thought that it was significant that Jupiter moved from its detriment for the new moon and to its exaltation and in its own bounds and the exact degree that Mars is at. I thought that's significant. The malefic struggling point becomes the benefic's power point. Take that in. Mars is a malefic planet. It likes to do damage. It likes to cut and sever and stuff like that. Depending on night and day. But because in a night chart, Mars is actually more productive, and it can be more active and point to being more active in action. But in a day chart, Mars can be the planet that likes to cut and sever. What could that mean? Could have been cutting and severing family members off. People you looked at family. Situations you thought looked like family. Oh, felt like home at one time. Now, and then I also said that Venus crossed over the South Node. By the way, it was flirting with destiny. Destiny up here. Now it's down here. And the South Node represents past. Releasing what we're releasing, because South Node can represent what we are walking away from, what we need to release. Karmic patterns we're meant to let go of. And sometimes people fear these points of like South Node points and Pluto points and stuff like that. But these points are not actually bad. They could point to just things coming to a completion, being finished. They could point to what we already learned, what we already experienced, already exhausted. So, and this conjunction happened yesterday, right? Because today's the 5th. Well, today, really. Well, yeah, Saturday. This is Saturday. And so when this Venus conjunction of the South Node is a point of release when it comes to, by the way, I'm talking about Venus, but while I'm talking and saying all this, you should be thinking, where's my Venus in my chart? Where is it at? And where is Aries and Libra in your chart? Where is your Venus in your chart? All of this stuff is falling in these areas for you. All right. So the Venus conjunction of the South Node, it was a point of release. I released the fantasy of who I could be to see who you really are. This is still in the air, y'all. This is about releasing the fantasy of who you could be to embrace who you really are. This could be a point of I released a job or a situation that looked perfect but never felt right. It's kind of like you borrowed a pair of shoes from your friend or a pair of pants They ain't your pants, but you wore it because you didn't feel like driving all the way across city to get to change clothes. So you just borrowed an outfit from your friend. It's enough to go out, but you sitting there uncomfortable because it just don't fit you right. That could be a job or a situation. I release trying to make something work that the universe keeps saying it's complete. Is there a relationship? Is there a job? Is there a situation? The universe keeps showing you, hey, dog, this thing is over with. But you just keep holding on. Keep holding on. Keep hope alive, like Jesse said. Right? But you see how I said about Venus being in fall and bounds right here. Venus, and right here, if you look, here's another reason why I was bringing up Jupiter, because Venus is right here in the North Node here is in the bounds of Jupiter. So what's going on with this release here? Jupiter, they got a Venus and the South Node has to ask Jupiter permission to release this. That's what bounds means. These planets don't have free reign. And if I totally was being honest, these two planets, the South Node and Venus, gotta ask Jupiter, hey, Jupiter, can I release this stuff? And Jupiter over here says, hey, let me check with Mercury, the ruler of Virgo. And Jupiter over here calls Mercury over here and say, hey, Mercury, do you mind if I allow Jupiter, Venus, and the South Node to release this stuff? And Mercury, depending on how Mercury feeling, Mercury may say, yeah. Mercury may say, yeah, make them clean up my house before they leave. Because Mercury ruled that shit. Mercury can put some conditions on it. And Jupiter gonna come back to you and say, hey, yeah, you can release all this Venus connection stuff and all that. But to do it, you gotta analyze and let go and this and that. And you might be saying, no, Jupiter, no, can you go back to Mercury and ask Mercury, can I? And Jupiter said, hey, Mercury spoke. So Venus is in Jupiter's bounds, and remember, Jupiter is now exalted in Cancer at the peak of power. To release happens under Jupiter's wise protective gaze. So what does that mean? With Jupiter being powerful, exalted, and all that, it's a given that you will be allowed to release. All right. Mercury, ruler of Virgo, is in Libra, creating mutual reception. Right? What's that mean? What is mutual reception? Mercury rules Virgo. Venus rules Libra. Mercury is in Venus's sign. Venus is in Mercury's sign, creating a mutual reception. Usually from this position, right here, they can't help each other. But since they in mutual reception, they actually can talk. And so Venus here can call Mercury and say, hey, Mercury, I'm in your house and can you tell me where you keep the, paper towels? And Mercury said, yeah, look under this cabinet, under the behind. And Venus said, all right, thank you. And then Mercury can call Venus and be like, hey, Venus, I'm looking for some soap. I'm trying to take a shower. And Venus could say, yeah, just look in the cupboard at this spot. Right? That's what mutual reception pretty much is about. All right? So Mercury in Libra tries to bring clear, fair communication. Mercury's about communication. All right, Moon, you be good. Mercury's about communication. Libra's about relationships. So Mercury in Libra brings clear, fair communication. Venus in Virgo brings practical discernment. They're negotiating the truth together. So this Venus in fall is not about a collapse. It's about a graceful surrender. The fall from Neptune back in March is finally starting to clear. What's going on, Dan? You starting to see situations for what it really is. Jupiter's protection and Mercury's clarity can let it go without bitterness. Venus in fall at the South Node in her own face, and Jupiter's bounds with mutual reception to Mercury. What does that mean? The debility is mitigated by mutual forms of support. Mercury is supporting Venus's fall as well as Jupiter. This dignified release is not destruction. Jupiter and Mars swap. You remember the Mars is in fall at 22 degrees Cancer. Now look at Jupiter here at 22 degrees Cancer, where Mars was. The swap. Malefic and benefic. What's that mean? Where Mars was cutting and severing, Jupiter is coming back to put band-aids on the situation in a way. Now, I did all of that and said all of that to walk you up to the full moon, which is tomorrow at 14 degrees Aries, right? I had it. Let's see. Let's show it again. 14 degrees Aries. All right, there we go. Full moon. 14 degrees Aries. All right. The sun. Why am I talking about Venus? Because if you look at the sun is in a Venus ruled sign. All right. The moon is in Mars ruled sign. Mars is in Scorpio over here back in his own rulership. Mercury just left Libra. See it's at the cusp here. And it was here. Saturn is retrograde up here in Pisces, which is Pisces is Venus's exaltation. All right. So we had two planets here in right in Venus's sign. So even though technically this is an Aries full moon, which Aries is about being fiery, independent, self-focused, in all actuality, Venus has been orchestrating everything from behind the scenes. It's kind of been about Venus this whole time. And this full moon, with Venus by the South Node and stuff, is illuminating what you've released, South Node, versus what you building toward, North Node. Remember, new moon, planting the seed, Venus is over here by the North Node, building toward, going toward, heading toward. The difference between what you wanted, Aries, moon, impulse, and what actually creates balance. Now that the sun was here at the new moon, now the sun is here. By the way, The sun is in fall in Libra. What you wanted, Aries moon, impulsively, and what actually creates balance, Libra sun, wish. This full moon is also illuminating how the illusions that you were going through in March now appear in October now has been clearing up and you're starting to see the light. You know, like I said, people's relationship with truth isn't devastating. Truth is actually freeing. What remains after the fall clears and the fantasy is released is more valuable because what you thought that wasn't real. This is what is real. So there were things that you could grab from this Venus going from in its castle, being pampered and all that, to its fall, right? And sometimes this is where people misunderstand what fall is all about. Exaltation is actually the test, the fall is the teaching. You will be tested, but then after the test, what was you supposed to extract from that lesson, that teaching, that test? And in Pisces, it's exaltation. Venus showed you the dream, what you think you want when there are no limitations, no boundaries, no reality to constrain the fantasy. Because Pisces can represent and be the ocean, vast like the ocean. And in Virgo, Venus shows you the truth, what actually works, what actually nourishes you, what actually aligns with your daily reality. Hey, you said that was your dream, but in reality, this is what you really are striving for. So the fall really it's not about a punishment, it's about purification. Venus and Virgo asks you to love what's real instead of what's ideal. I had to go back to my rapping days, y'all. Love what's real instead of what's ideal. True value what serves you instead of what impresses you. To choose the relationship, the job, the life that actually functions over the one that looks good from the outside. Just as long as the neighbors think everything is all right, huh? So from new moon to this full moon, right? What was going on in this cycle? Let's just go from February to October. The promise, the North Node in exaltation. This could be everything. The fog, Neptune conjunction. I can't see clearly, but it feels magical. The retrograde, questioning. Is this real? The reality check, Saturn conjunction. Here are the actual terms. The humbling, Venus's fall in Virgo. What does this actually look like on a day-to-day basis? The release, the South Node conjunction. I let go of the fantasy with grace. And now we get to the full moon, the resolution. What remains is real, and that's more valuable. Now, we all been going through the cycle. Like I said, find your Aries, Libra, and your Venus. And you might be sitting there feeling like you lost something, but actually, what you did was trade a beautiful fantasy for an honest reality. And with Jupiter exalted watching over the release, with Mercury offering clear communication, with Saturn having already taught you some lessons, this loss is actually a liberation. You're no longer chasing what was never yours to have. You're no longer trying to force what was never meant to work. You're no longer in love with potential instead of presence. Mm, mm, mm. The fog is cleared now. And what you can see now, that's what's actually worth keeping. Not everything is worth holding on to. All right. So, anybody got any questions out there? Let me just run through it real quick. Aries rising, full moon shines in your own sign, asking you to release illusions around identity. Venus at the South Node in the sixth highlights work, health, routines. You're being asked to release what drains your energy. Jupiter in your fourth says new strength comes from a secure home base. Taurus rising. Venus is your ruler, crosses the South Node in your fifth. Karmic release around love, pleasure, or creative projects. A fantasy dissolves, but Jupiter in the third opens doors through writing, teaching, or local community. Your voice is what expands you now. Gemini rising, the South Node meets Venus in your fourth house. Old family patterns, ancestral ties, or living situations are being cleared. The Aries full moon activates your 11th. Friendships and community become your stage. Jupiter exalted in your second says, know your worth. Material blessings follow. Cancer rising. The South Node releases in your third, clearing old ways of thinking, old voices, old sibling dynamics. The Aries full moon activates your 10th house of career. The world sees you clearly. Jupiter exalted in your own sign makes you the channel of grace. Leo rising. Venus conjunct your South Node in the second house. Release of old money matters, old money patterns, or attachments to possessions. The Aries full moon in your ninth acts for truth, philosophy, and vision. Jupiter in your 12th protects you. Behind the scenes, spiritual faith and hidden allies guide you. Virgo rising, Venus meets the South Node in your first house, shedding old identities, appearances, or old ways of seeking approval. The Aries full moon activates your eighth, shared resources, intimacy, debts. Jupiter exalted in your 11th says new friends and networks carry you forward. Libra rising, your ruler is Venus as well, conjuncts the South Node in the 12th, karmic release and solitude, secrets and hidden places. The full moon in your 7th highlights partnerships, something comes full circle. Jupiter exalted in your 10th says your public role or career holds the blessing. Scorpio rising, Venus conjunct the South Node in your 11th. Old friends or committees fade. The Aries full moon lights up your 6th, your body, health, and work life. Jupiter exalted in your 9th house lifts you. Teaching, travel, faith, and publishing expand your world. Sagittarius rising, Venus meets the South Node in your 10th. Old career patterns or reputations are released. The full moon shines in your 5th. Love, creativity, joy. Jupiter exalted in your 8th blesses shared resources, debt resolution, or intimacy breakthroughs. Capricorn rising, Venus conjunct your South Node in your 9th house. Old beliefs, teachings, or mentors are released. The Aries full moon activates your 4th, family, and roots. Jupiter exalted in your 7th. New partnerships, contracts, or allies bring grace and opportunity. Aquarius rising, Venus conjunct your South Node in the 8th. Old debts, fears, and shared entanglements are released. Aries full moon in your 3rd highlights communication and siblings. Jupiter exalted in your 6th says healing routines and service leads to growth. Pisces rising, Venus conjunct the South Node in your 7th equals karmic release in relationships. Well, karmic release in partnerships. The Aries full moon in your 2nd highlights money, income, self-worth. Jupiter exalted in your 5th blesses your creative projects, children, and joy. Love and play return as blessings. Each rising sign has its own release point, but through it all, Venus clears the past, Jupiter blesses the future. What you let go now opens the way for Jupiter's exalted gift. Are you going to let go? Or are you going to continue to hold on for dear life, that which is trying to fade away? Any questions? Anybody got anything? Speak now, forever hold your peace. Only once. Only twice. So, yeah, that was like I said, hopefully y'all could to make it more personal. Make sure you find your Venus area, your Taurus area, and your Libra area. Look at that, because wherever Venus is in your chart, in your natal chart, not only is it going to affect that area, it also going to affect those two houses that Venus rules. So, for instance, Gemini rising, Venus is the 12th and the 5th. So what's going on with Virgo in the 4th, going through Virgo in the 4th, is speaking to the 5th and the 12th subjects. You have to bring those in and pull those in, right? If you are Taurus rising, right? Venus is going to be your chart ruler, which is your first house. And then Venus is also going to rule your 6th house, so daily routine and health. So it has this, and Virgo is going to be your 5th. So 5th, 6th, 1st. All of that has something to do with this full moon. And don't forget, to factor in the house that the full moon is in, which is Aries, that axis. I know it may sound complicated and all that, but y'all catch on and get to it. It's not just the one thing, one placement. It's about a cycle. What's the story that the cycle is telling? If you just look at, okay, this is where everything at for the full moon, right? And don't really look at the cycle, you might miss the story. You might miss it. Might misinterpret it. Might not be able to see it. But if you look at the whole cycle, what was going on, reflect, reminisce, bring in all the other factors, then you could start seeing how it's playing out in your life. So, with that being said, y'all, I want to thank y'all for joining me on this full moon. Hopefully that resonated with y'all, and for anybody that's watching and all that, leave a comment down there below. Let me know what resonated with you. If you hear a story that's been going on from February to now for you, and you feel like letting us know, drop a comment down there. So, with that being said, I end this. Know thyself and balance your energy. Oh wait, hold up. All right. Yeah, I put the rising signs. I talked about the rising sign toward the end, but I also talked about the whole cycle from beginning to end, which started at the new moon, and how this is connected to Venus, and why I was talking about Venus so much, right? Because Venus, even though this is an Aries full moon, Venus had a lot to say about it, and it has a story. It's about a story that's been going on with Venus. So hopefully go back and catch it, so you can see things could start laying out. What was your rising sign? I forgot it. Yeah, what is your rising sign? Pisces. All right. Tell you what I do for you. I give you the extended version. The extended version of your rising sign. I didn't do this version. I give you the extended version. How about that? Now you feel special. All right. For you, Pisces rising, Full moon in your second house, sun in your eighth. Just set that up. So, um, so this is the full moon axis for you. All right. So, full moon in your second, sun in your eighth, your money versus shared money, your values versus others' values, self-worth versus intimacy. Eighth house is intimacy, second house is self-worth. Independence versus merger. This full moon illuminates what you're worth and what you're trading yourself for. Ouch. Venus rules your third. Venus rules your third of communication, siblings, and learning, and your eighth house, shared resources, transformation, intimacy, NTUIC. Her South Node conjunction in your seventh house, Venus here, and your seventh, is clearing karmic partnership patterns. The relationship you thought was destiny in February, you see it clearly now. Flaws, its limitations, and reality. Saturn, which is retrograde in your sign, in your first house, reviewing all the lessons that you learned since March and April, the responsibilities, the boundaries or lack thereof, the reality checks, what wisdom you earn. So this full moon here for you demands, can you receive support without losing yourself? Can you receive support without losing yourself? Can you merge financially or emotionally without dissolving your identity? The intimacy you craved, what does it really actually cost you? Jupiter exalted in your fifth house is glorious. Creativity, romance, pleasure, children, joy. It's all blessed right now. What you love becomes your abundance, not what you think you should love. What you actually love. Now I got a question for you, and this is your key question. Are you trading your worth for belonging, or standing in your value and attracting worthy partners? Are you trading your worth for belonging, or standing in your value and attracting worthy partners? What do you think about the extended? What you say? It's tough, yet I'm noticing patterns, not trading, or being trading it anymore. I may have a few triggering questions in there, like ouch, but some of that stuff might have to be looked at. Anybody else in there? Anybody else Any other rising signs in here that want the extended version? Anybody else want the extended version? Don't be scared. Don't be scared. There's 3 other people in here. Don't nobody else. Leo rising. Well, let's. Here's a full moon for you. Leo rising. All right. So this full moon for you is happening in your 9th. Here's the moon here in your 9th. Here's the sun in your 3rd. Higher philosophy versus daily mindset. Belief systems versus practical communication. Big picture versus the details. This full moon illuminates what you truly believe versus your habitual thinking. Venus rules Taurus and Libra, which is your 10th and your 3rd. Taurus, 10th is career, public image. 3rd, Libra, communication, learning. South Node conjunct in your 2nd house. Asks you to release old money entanglements and self-worth issues. Perhaps you valued yourself based on external measures, income, status, other people's opinions. This full moon reveals, what do you believe about yourself now that the fog has cleared? The worldview or spiritual philosophy you adopted in March, was it wisdom or escapism? The education or teacher you idealized, were they showing you truth or telling you what you wanted to hear? Jupiter exalted in the 12th house brings divine timing, unseen support. Jupiter here. The universe is working behind the scenes on your behalf. Trust what you can't see yet. Question for you. Is your philosophy about life expansive, or is it just a prettier story about your limitations? What's up, Trisha? How you doing? You know your rising sign, Trisha? You know your rising sign? Know your rising sign. Do you know your rising sign, Trisha? Would you like to know what the full moon has in store with you? You know, it don't actually just have to be. Maybe I could read it from your sun sign. You know, Yeah. I guess Trisha didn't know her rising sign. So, well, I guess that's enough. All right, y'all. I'm gone. Now, in this, know thyself and balance your energy.